All right, guys, so what do we actually mean when we're talking about alignment? When we refer to alignment, we're simply talking about the combination of where you're standing on the approach and what you're aiming at on the lane. And the important thing to remember is that depending on what the lane is asking you to do, your alignment is going to be different. So for example, sometimes the lane is going to be wanting you to play straight up the lane. So it's going to be more acceptable to be standing a lot closer to your target. However, there are going to be other times where maybe there's less oil on the lane or it's a drier oil pattern. You're going to be asked to stand farther away from your target and have a more open alignment to be able to project the ball towards the gutter and hook it back into the pocket. So the important thing to remember is that it's always fluid, and it's really important to be able to adjust that alignment depending on what the lane is asking you to do. It's important to be able to align yourself, because just because you know what you're trying to do, if you're aligned improperly, it's going to be impossible to actually execute it. So for example, say you're trying to play straight up the 10 board, straight up the second arrow, but you're standing on the 30th board. It's going to be impossible to play straight up 10 while trying to slide into the 30th board. And that is where the problems start. One problem that can lead to is an insane drift. We see all these bowlers all the time where they start on 30, but they're aiming at the 10 board, they're aiming at the second arrow, and your brain knows it's not possible for me to throw the ball straight up the second arrow standing all the way over here. So what happens? You start drifting all the way back towards your target, and it's going to be insanely difficult to repeat and execute shots when you've got a 10 or a 20 or 15 board drift sometimes. And then another problem that it can cause is that all of a sudden your arm swing starts to get out of whack. Your brain knows, okay, again, if I slide into 30 and I'm trying to hit 10, my ball's going straight in the gutter. I don't want to walk all the way back to my target, so what's one other way to compensate? Allow that arm swing to get farther from your body, and that will allow you to play straight up 10. But then all of a sudden, the ball's far from your ankle, you lose leverage, you lose power, and most importantly, it makes it really, really difficult to execute and to repeat. So understanding how to play the lanes and then partnering with that with a proper alignment is key, so you can make it easy on yourself to execute and repeat. All right, so I have got our good friend Benjy here to help us demonstrate how to align properly. So the solution to aligning properly can seem a little bit complicated, but once you get it down and once you practice a little bit, it can make it really, really easy to line up quickly to do what you're trying to do on the lane. So the first step to the solution is picking a break point. This is going to be your starting point. The next part of the solution is you're going to want to pick a targeting point at the arrows. Then the third step here is you're going to take the difference between the break point and the arrows to get a number. So for example, let's say your break point is 5 and you want to go through 15 at the arrows. You would take the difference between 15 and 5, which is 10. So you would take that 10 number and then add it on to the number at the arrows, and that's going to give you your laydown point. So in this example, if you're trying to play 15 to 5, you take that difference, which is 10, add that on to 15, and that gives you the board number of 25. That's going to give you a laydown point of 25 to play 15 at the arrows to 5 at the break point. And the last piece is to add 5 boards down to that laydown point, and that's going to give you your sliding board. So again, reviewing with this example of playing 15 to 5, you're going to take the difference between 15 and 5. That's going to give you that laydown point of 25, and then you add 5 onto it, and that's going to give you your sliding board of 30. So if you're trying to play 15 to 5, you want to be sliding into that 30 board. All right, guys, so Benjy is now going to go out there and he's going to try to execute a shot of 20 at the arrows to 10 down lane. So if we do our math, the difference between 20 at the arrows and 10 down lane is 10. That's going to give you a laydown point of 30. Add 5 boards onto it, and that's going to give you a sliding point of 35. And one important thing to note that you'll see here in the video is that just because Benjy's trying to slide into 35 doesn't mean that's going to be where he starts. The last part of this to really take it home all the way is that you need to know how many boards you drift. So because Benjy drifts a handful of boards, he's going to start a little bit farther to the right than 35 because he knows he's going to drift a little left and eventually slide into that 35 board to lay it down on 30 and go 20 to 10 and throw a strike. So let's go ahead. I'm going to step out of here, Benjy. You go ahead, get lined up, and throw us that strike.
I'm going to go over a simple targeting system that can help you improve your scores. Alright guys, so this system is widely used among bowlers. It features 3-step targeting system. So what we're going to focus on first is like a focal point, and then you want to have to know where is your break point and then your visual target. So with this targeting system, you're going to start up all the way up to the pins, and then you're going to draw a line all the way to you. So it's going to create an intended path for you where you want to throw the bowling ball. So the first thing to figure out with this targeting system is you want to know where your break point or exit point is going to be. So that means where the ball is going to exit at the pattern. So for this, there is a simple formula that we mentioned before in this channel, which is the rule of 31. So basically, we're going to take the length of the pattern that we're bowling on, and then you're going to subtract 31, and that's going to give us an intended break point that we should have the ball. So that's going to be a great starting point to use this system. So our focal point is going to be one of the pins. So for example, it's going to be, if you want to have like a wide angle, it's going to be the 10 pin. But if you want to keep it closer to the pocket, it's going to be maybe the 3 pin if you're right-handed. Alright guys, so now that we have the focal point and the break point, we just gotta draw a line all the way back to ourselves. And for me, I'm gonna use the arrows as my visual cue to figure out where to aim. So for some people it might be the dots, because it's gonna be easier to hit the arrows or the dots than if you try to hit the intended pad all the way to the pins. So it's just very important to draw back that line that you see in your mind, and then take it through that arrow and just simple aim and shoot. So axis of rotation also is commonly known as the side roll. Let's say, for example, if you have no axis of rotation, like 0 degrees, doesn't matter how many reps you put on that ball, the ball will continue to go straight. So in general terms, when it comes to axis of rotation, we could say that having to 0 to 30 degrees, we consider a low axis of rotation. And then 30 to 60 is considered a medium axis of rotation, and then 60 and up is going to be a higher axis of rotation. So now we're going to go to the lanes, and then we're going to show you how these different releases can affect your game. Alright guys, so the first release that we're going to talk about is the medium axis of rotation. This type of release is great for the typical half condition. It's going to give you the best of both worlds. It's going to give you earlier hook while also back-end recovery. So this release is the one that I particularly use the most. It's the ones that I feel more comfortable using with. It's right in between the low and the high, and usually it's a great starting point to know what adjustments I need to do if I need to do any adjustments. Alright guys, so the second type of release that we're going to talk about here is the low axis of rotation, or more commonly known forward roll. So this type of release is going to give you a smooth overall ball reaction. So it's going to get your ball rolling early, it's going to hook in the front part of the lane, and overall it's going to give you less backhand reaction, but it's going to give you that smooth overall motion. So this type of release is great for when you're bowling on fresh oil conditions that you need your ball to start hooking early, or in sports shots when the lane conditions are a little harder and you need control. So this release is going to give you the most control out of the three, and it's a great tool for bowling on a sport condition, fresh condition, or oily conditions. So as I mentioned, this release is great for fresher oil conditions or when the lanes are hard, but one of the cons of this release is when you start moving left and you see your ball hooking early but doesn't have a lot of energy in the back end, you're going to start seeing a lot of flat tens, a lot of buckets. So that's a clear sign that you need to get out of that release and start getting a little bit more around the ball so it can give you extra back end reaction. Alright guys, so the third release that we're going to talk about here is the high axis of rotation, or more commonly known, getting around the ball. So this release is great for when you need to stand left when the lanes are more broke down and you need extra backhand reaction. So this release is probably the bowler's favorite because it's the one that creates the most hook. Because as the more around you get the ball, it's going to key to the front part of the lane, and it's going to store all that energy and it's going to keep it for the backhand, creating a sharp hook. Alright guys, as I mentioned earlier, this release is great for when you need to stand a little bit farther left. When you see your ball like kind of doesn't storing as much energy in the back end, it's time to get left and get around the ball. That's usually towards the end of the second game of league or in the third game of league when you need those sharper angles to make sure you carry those 10 pins. Thank you so much for watching. Please let us know in the comments, what do you think? What do you like? What other videos would you like to see? And again, thanks so much for watching. Please like, comment, subscribe, and we'll see you on the next video.